Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for the first Startup Grind of the year, which is happening on the first Tuesday of this year, of the month, and it's normally, some of you who know my history, it's the 15th anniversary of First Tuesday now in Luxembourg, and on the day itself it's the 15th anniversary. Wow. But that has nothing to do with Startup Grind, just a little bit story. I would also like to thank our partners with whom this event and other events would not have been possible. First of all, I would like to thank and welcome Nuco, especially for providing us this nice venue, and also our partner BPM. If you're sending us mail, the parcels and the mail will arrive there, as well as MixVoip, so you can reach us also by phone, and also sponsor my event. If you dare to support us otherwise than in kind, you can click on the link and it would help us as well. And last but not least, the Cine Club, the Cine Video Club of Rösa for, let's say, taping always the events. Right, let's start immediately. It's easier, I don't know. Tonight we have the pleasure to have Marco Houwen with us, who has agreed to share some insight and insight, especially.
We'll see.
With us. And Marco and myself, we know each other for several years. I had also the opportunity to work with Marco on some of the ventures. And simply to start, Marco, how did it all start? How did you decide to become independent, to go on your own? Let's call it like that.
Well, I am from nature a person who is very fast frustrated, and working for somebody was something very frustrating. So I always thought that they are not doing it right, and I always thought that I could do it way better, which actually I got some more insight after on that, but that's another story. But at that time I said, hey, it would be really good to be your own boss, because, hey, I would do it right. That was a little bit the basic motivation. I think coming out of an entrepreneurial family helped too, so having seen and having worked a lot as a kid and so on was not something which was holding me back of going down that road. But all in all, it was really about being my own boss, I think.
And to have the wish or the idea, the dream and so on, to be your own boss, from the step of dreaming and then saying, okay, I will dare my dream, what was the most difficult step? To find opportunity or to convince yourself?
Well, something I didn't want to talk about it, but that's why you do fireside chats, so you cannot prepare for it. But I was something like 20 years ago. I was already once launching myself into my own business and went to south of France, and I said to all my friends, "Hey guys, forget it. I'm going to the nice weather. I'm out of here." Well, 1 year later, I had no dime anymore. I had no dime to get. I was a little bit, and I came back, and I had to say to the same friends, "Hey guys, here I am again." It's like being humble from time to time helps also as an entrepreneur. But the second try was several years later, and the step doing it was really being and having a good idea, thinking to have a good idea at the beginning, because actually when we launched we did something totally different than the basic idea we had. But we had a good idea, we were looking around, that was during the .com hype, and we wanted to do millions with online advertising, as everybody did. Some of my friends became multimillionaire just by having one website and selling ads to Telefonica at that time. So they became their money, but we were too late for that, and we then saw it will not work out. So, yeah, we did it with another idea.
And how did the idea develop? I mean, okay, you said you did it with another idea, but did you try several ideas one after the other, or did you do it, okay, let's shoot wide, and then we see what we get back?
Due to my first quite tough experience and my first learning curve was, well, you did all that and you failed dramatically. What was your biggest mistake? And one of the big mistakes was I was doing it on my own and I had no clue about 99% of what I'm doing, and I thought I need a team. And I was putting around the table some friends, one being a CFO in another company, one being an internet expert who today is one of the most famous guys in entrepreneurship in Luxembourg, XavierBuck, and one at that time a journalist, because we wanted to do an informational website, so we need somebody to write. So I think the team was the most important part, and actually it's also out of this team that Xavier one day said, really great, but we will not do a dime with what we are discussing here, so let's talk about a new idea. And we iterated it in the group several times. We didn't come up with what we were doing the first day, for sure.
But at that time, I mean, nowadays it's easier. You have cloud computing, you have distributed resources and so on. But at that time, I mean, cloud computing, hosting was a nascent business. It was more capital intensive, or would you say was similar than today?
I was becoming a sitter. I was starting as a sitter. I had no clue, but I was managing a server. I don't know the name of the company anymore. But it was bought by Sun Microsystems then, and they had like an integrated server with an Apache on it and so on. So you could create everything on the web, emails and so on. Thanks, Loic. And I was administrating this thing. I was even more or less able to handle that. So yes, at that time it was a very intensive business. Well, we did money where we could, so we did a lot of. We had some corporate customers where we could do some fancy stuff because we had knowledge they didn't have. So that brought us the first money, and then we grew more really over time. So,
but was it not too difficult to convince the corporate customers? Because very often, maybe nowadays, it's a little bit. It's the hype that okay, if you're a small company, it's maybe easier to get a bigger customer, corporate customer. But was it not difficult to convince customers to trust you, especially as it was a nascent business, but also a nascent industry?
Yeah, but we did a lot of internal stuff which was coming out of the internet, and nobody was doing it. So they were looking for somebody who could do it. So we were able to deliver, and that was not, there were no placeholder at that time. For the first 2-3 years, then that was gone. But at the beginning, it was like that.
So this means it was really niche. You were talking.
Yes. I remember we installed the first WebSense server that was like probably one of the first in Luxembourg. It was about checking who is doing what on the internal network and so on. So this kind of stuff was very, very new and interesting for corporates, as you can imagine, because they didn't want to shut their people out of internet, but they wanted to know what's going on, and so these kind of stuff. Yeah.
And the other thing is, I mean, you were talking about the team, but the financial support you required. Did you bring it by your own, or in the team, or did you have an outside resource which assisted you?
Well, we started up out of this group. I talked before. We started up with one business angel who was actually the one who owned the meeting room where we had meetings, and he said always, "Well, I put my ear, and it's interesting. I come in." So one day he did. So he, but we're not talking about huge amount of money. But he was the one who was bringing some of the money. Well, we all brought money on the table, and I will never forget the day where where I went putting the money on the bank for creating companies. Something it's an it's an experience, or it was an experience. Having then launched like that, we were really growing organically. So that's why today Datacenter Luxembourg or so on is still running more or less in the family somehow. And so it was not an exponential business as we're looking into very often today. So the financial requirements were there, and if they were there, we were able always to somehow find a solution.
But you just said you were growing organically. How did you also diversify the company? So you were aware that you were diversifying it, or was it more okay? Oh, there's an opportunity. Let's grab it. Or
Well, that's a good one. No, that was all planned.
Yeah,
no, that's not right. That was for the record. No, actually, some of it was planned. If you look into EuroDNS, the idea of EuroDNS was discussed between Xavier and myself very, very soon after we launched Datacenter Luxembourg, and we just decided, hey, let's just take the money we're getting out of Datacenter and invest it into a developer first, and then a second, and somehow at one moment in time, we had a platform where you could register quite a lot of country code domains, and we just decided, no, let's do a spin-off of Datacenter Luxembourg. So it came. So there is it's a mixture. It's a mixture between opportunity and strategic approach, because we never did something out of our domain. To be very clear, it was always around internet opportunity.
That's adapting and growing organically. On the other hand, is also, did you notice how your customer base, your market changed while you were growing? Because very often when you're growing, you're just focusing, and then you work like hell, and you don't notice what is happening on the market.
I think that's an ongoing challenge for any company, is that even if you see it, you are so into with your resources so bound to what you're doing that you have a hard time to change. So yes, that was always a challenge. And if I look back, I see hundreds of things which I would have done different or faster or whatever. But that's how it is. I think you always know better when you can look back and say, hey, I could have done.
Could have tripled it.
Yeah.
On the other hand, starting, growing, having customers and so on, there comes a point where you can't do it on your own as a company, where you need partners, strategic partners who provide services or who bring your customers and so on. Your customer base, was it initially, I suppose, was more in Luxembourg itself, or was it immediately international?
Well, we never really focused the Luxembourgish market, I have to. We had a lot of Luxembourgish customers, but the aim was always with Datacenter Luxembourg, and maybe also the positioning we're still having today, is we were the first ones who said, we will go international, we bring international e-commerce and e-business companies to Luxembourg. And then I went out, and I remember I made a roadshow in Frankfurt, and I met all the large tier 1 internet or bandwidth providers, like Level 3 or Telia at that time, and they told me, yeah, well, we would like to come, but right now there is no connection from Frankfurt to Luxembourg. We started to look into that, and we found out, yeah, there is none, and we started to look for solutions. So we were, from the beginning, we were instrumental on opening up for the country, but for our business, because that was the aim of the business. I remember that I had AOL at that time sitting in our offices. I don't know, what was maybe 2005, 6, I don't know anymore exactly. And they said, well, right now your country has a bandwidth capacity of 600 megabit. Today this would be. We need 60 gig. So that's long as we don't have this capacity, we cannot be here. So the aim of making the ecosystem grow was like natively into our genes, because it was part of our business from day one.
And if you look a little bit, I mean, you had partners, I mean, strategic partners with whom you worked, or suppliers, or customers, and so on. Were there, which one were more interesting? The more challenging one, or the ones where it was plain vanilla, where they took your product, your service as it is, or the ones who were challenging you a little bit in order to get more out of it?
Well, challenging customer is always putting yourself into perspective, because normally they're challenging either on service or on price. So both is something you have to tackle, and you have to think about how can you grow in order to meet their demands. And that's for sure a challenge, and was a challenge at that time, because if you look into bandwidth prices, we sold the first 100 meg line to Skype, and I will never forget that. And I made a price. I won't talk about prices, but I made a price with what at that time was for us 60% under, no 40%, sorry, under our buying price. And we decided, Xavier and myself, we will do that, because we hope that they will sign for a lot of time and we can get back into money afterwards. We got eventually, but just to say, and then we were still something like 16 or 15, 16 times more expensive than for the ones who were buying in Frankfurt or in London. So we were totally out of scope. So yes, that was a challenge. So and that's still a challenge. Got better on the bandwidth side, but we still have these challenges on the co-location side for sure today. And then with customers, you always have this discussion, and you have to try to meet them, and you have to find ways to convince them that you're still the right partner for them.
And while you developed the company, evolved, you had customers and so on, I guess the market and also the other providers, let's call them your peers, also came on the market. How did you react? Was it more like, okay, we go aggressively, or let's put our base, or?
Well, it depends on what competition you're talking about. If you talk about the international competition in the hosting business and the co-location business, well, there were the big ones, and they are there today. There was OVH at that time, still already there was 1&1. Today it's Host Europe, at Intergenia, and these Strato, these kind of guys. You could not compete with them on their prices, on their market. It was just, we didn't have the scale, and we couldn't have the scale in Luxembourg. So we sticked to our Luxembourg story and said, okay, if you want to do it in Luxembourg, you can do it with us. And that was the way how we could compete. In Luxembourg, yes, we had competition. I think our name was wisely chosen, and a lot of our so-said competitors were customers of ours and were running their services out of our environment. So there were not so many competitors for some years. This changed dramatically after 2006 and the launch of LuxConnect, where then everybody could open and was opening, or a lot of companies were opening up, or growing into the co-location space.
I mean, there generally comes a time when you grow that, as you said, you were a team, you were experienced in one sense, but in order to grow, often the company needs outside assistance, either an outside expertise which they bring into the company. Was there a point where you said to yourself, I mean, even inside the company, where you said, okay, we need a person with these skills because we don't have them, and we don't have them in-house, but we need them, and then we need to integrate such a person, or even that maybe we are now doing 5 things, you as an individual, and maybe I'm only good at 3 things, so 2 other things another person could do. Was there time?
Over and over again. I think part of doing a business in this very fast evolving markets and in this very fast evolving world is that you cannot know everything, and if you think you know everything, then you're doomed from day one. so in different companies and in different moments, we had different people coming in. I remember that we had once two very highly skilled MBA INSEAD guys digging into numbers and really coming up with analysis of things which maybe we knew, or maybe afterwards we said what we knew, but which were very insightful and nicely presented, and things we never did, we never knew how to do, and yeah, you need people like that helping you for sure.
And is it not too difficult to get them, because so far you were doing it and it's your, let's call it your baby, you created it, you developed it, you nurtured it, and then you need to give away some part. Was that not?
It depends on, well, here we didn't give, well, we gave away a task we both didn't like to do, so that was not a hard thing. But yes, I think it's the challenge of letting go of different roles in the company is always a challenge, because you always think that you are the one who does it best, because you are the one who are thinking about it from the beginning and so on. What I learned in my experience all over these years is that I really love and like to work with people who are, let's call them coach or mentor, I don't know, but people who you can trust, who you're trusting. That's a decision to trust them. So you never have the framework to do so, but you decide to do it. You get the framework afterwards, but you decide to do it, and who are genuinely interested on helping, on making you grow, because you as an entrepreneur, you have to grow. I am totally different, not totally different, but I'm a totally different entrepreneur as I was 15 or 16 years ago. It has nothing to do, and the knowledge, and it's just, and that evolves through people who share a part of the way with you, and who you trust, and who gives you feedback, hopefully without any hidden agenda. And yeah, that works most of the time good. I like it. Yeah, well, you have people who have a hidden agenda, and you don't see it at the beginning. That's how it is. But as I said, I think trust in that matter is something you have to allocate, and then you have to be proven right or wrong at the end.
The other thing is, here in Luxembourg, we always hear, or we always blame ourselves that there's a shortage of skills. Sorry. So, was it, you were talking about eventually mentor, people assisting you also, was it not difficult to find them, or were you lucky to find them?
The mentors or the skills?
Both.
Well, I can take here my experience I have with LuxCloud. I decided to create the best team in cloud service brokerage, and didn't stop for nothing to make it happen, and hired the best people I could find in Europe and brought them to Luxembourg, and we did it together. And yes, you need to go a long way. I remember that actually he's today the CEO of LuxCloud, so his wife said, I will just come when we get this house. So I said, okay, well, let's try to make that happen. Huh? And well, I could convince her that 3 euros deeper, that was okay too. But yeah, you have to go a long way to get the good people, and you have to work hard and to convince them that your project is the one they want to work on. On the mentor side, that comes, or it doesn't. It's very hard. You cannot. I think. Well, I didn't find a strategy right now to say, well, in this now I will find a mentor who is ready to give the time for it, and I am ready to listen to him. I think that's something that finds itself, or it doesn't. I think you have to have an open mind for it. That's my way of doing it. I think actually what is very important is that there is no right or wrong here. There's just about experience to be shared. I don't know if anything I say tonight will help anybody of you, but that's how I function. For me, it is important. It is very important to have somebody I can play ideas, and I have a sounding board who just says, "Hey, are you crazy?" or you should do it like that, or you should look into here, and that's something which helps. It's this duality between, on one hand side, being extremely stubborn about your idea. You have to be stubborn, because if you're not stubborn, you will never create your idea. On the other hand side, you have to be open enough to listen to somebody to change your idea. So in essence, it's not really working, but somehow it has. Somehow it has to work.
But coming then to a point where the company has grown, which was the case with Datacenter, with TCL, and so on. Then you did something else. For example, let's just quote LuxCloud. How did that happen? Was it that you were a little bit bored, or that there were no challenges, or that did you say, okay, there's an opportunity, but I would like to do it with another name, another umbrella, than with a stable business?
It was all in the continuity.
Yeah.
Yes, there was the will of creating a global player, for sure. I think that was the one of the big motors behind. But it was a continuity of Datacenter Luxembourg as such, and that's why Datacenter Luxembourg was also one of the main shareholders of LuxCloud. It was just to get out of co-location and to get out of commodity and go into service. So yes, it was a personal challenge, and I can tell you I dedicated 6 years of my life fully to that. When I say fully, that was really fully, and it came out of the logic of what we were doing before.
And if you now, I mean, today, if you look at yourself today, I mean, you have another company. You are offering services, if I'm not mistaken. And also you are involved in, let's say, assisting companies setting up, and also eventually also investing, if I'm not mistaken. Is that a natural, would you say, is that a natural way or natural path to do when you have done your bit, and then to stab a little bit on the other side, with at least with one foot?
I am passionate about technology, even if I'm totally not a technologist. So I'm not a well, I'm a geek, yes, but I'm not a geek who can fix things. Let's say it like that. But I'm passionate about the new potential of something new. And when I looked into Bitcoin some time ago, I really thought it's incredible. And at the beginning, as most of people, I saw the disruptive potential, get rid of central banks and so on. But very fast I understood the potential, and I have to honestly say, even if I had no clue about what the protocol blockchain at the beginning myself, honestly, it took me a long time to start to understand what this is about. But to see the potential, I think that is something what drives me, is to understand the business, to see a business idea, to understand its potential, and then to think about how can we do business, how can we create out of this something larger, and I find that. So here we are in this thrilling environment of blockchain. So I don't like to talk so much about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is, I would say, it's the world's largest and most expensive proof of concept ever done, and we will see if one day it will grow out of a proof of concept or not. Well, Mike Hearn, who just stepped down as one of the lead developers, says it is doomed. Maybe he's right. But still, it created a technology which today has such a tremendous potential of disrupting our everyday life way beyond finances. It's way beyond anything. It's just getting out and don't need you don't need a third person authenticator anymore. You just have the network and the protocol giving you the trust. It's just, well, I could talk about hours for that, but it is just, it's just thrilling.
And one of the other thing which was in the news was this, I don't know if the name is correct, ICT Seed Fund.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to that one?
Well, as I said, we were the ones who, by design, promoted Luxembourg long before it was promotable. Let's say it like that in the ICT sector. Sorry, have to specify. But and well, you create your network through that. And I think today we have a recognition in the market and in Luxembourg of being people who genuinely try to make the ecosystem work. And yes, so we were sitting on the table and we were discussing around the ICTC fund, which I think is one of these missing links in the country, is to have an early stage investor who professionally can analyze projects and decide in which to invest. And we're talking about, well, people talking about 19.2 million, which will be invested, but it's a very small fund, so it's not, but in comparison. But it is a lot of money, which allows today to do something between 15 and 25 investments in the next 6 years, which is not a lot. But imagine if there are, out of these ones, it's maybe one unicorn, we would all be crazily happy, but 5 or 10 successful companies which are growing out of it, that would be the biggest success. And I think it's very important to create this ecosystem so that other funds will come and say, hey, there is potential. We have all this money here today. We have this fund industry in Luxembourg who channels the money through this country. If some of it will just take and invest it into venture capitalists, that would be good. But we have to create the ecosystem. And all these efforts, Xavier and myself, and we are totally aligned on that, are doing is really to support the system, because at the end we're all profiting from it. We were the biggest supporters of LuxConnect at the beginning, and I always say maybe Datacenter was the ones who suffered the most out of it, because we had no competition on co-location, but then we had. But it doesn't matter. It's about the ecosystem, and then new opportunities arise, and you grab them and you go for it.
On the end, but there was some who tried also to invest and put some money together, like a fund and so on, who did it, succeeded more or less, but when the fund was fully invested, they didn't grow it again. So
yeah.
The other thing, and what their message is that there weren't enough quality projects available, and that first there needs to be, let's say so, the creation and development of quality projects. Do you see it the same, or has it evolved a little bit?
No.
I mean, for the quantity and quality.
I think the deal flow is the biggest question. For me, there are two main discussions after the experience you mentioned. That is that we don't have enough deal flow, so we have to create deal flow. We have to create more ideas. We have to see more ideas. And during the vetting process, which lasted something like 6 months for the general partner, that was one of the absolute utmost important question. How are you creating the deal flow? What are you doing? How are you, Mr. GP, make it happen? And I think the other thing which was very important is that the general partner is a professional general partner who does just that. Because investing is a real business, and there are people who have done this for years and who can do that very, very good, and with more or less success. A lot of failures always in there, but and you need to have somebody like that. And we were very fortunate, because was it 7 or was it 8? But we saw 7 or 8 general partners, and we really could make ourselves a very good idea on different approaches and that was a very interesting process. So for me, it's very important that you have a professional, not that the other. People are saying, why are you not opening up a fund? Because we could today, we could do that. I don't feel myself ready to do so. It's a business that is on. Maybe if I look more into it and I understand it better, maybe in 2 or 5 years, I would say, hey, why not? But today, I don't know enough for that. And I'm not feeling myself ready to get together a fund of 10 million and say, I will invest it into companies and grow this. I feel comfortable to say, hey, this idea is cool, and my motivation will motivate other people to invest into this idea, because they take their own decision to invest into this idea. That's another story. Here we're talking about taking a bunch of money, and now you have to go and find the ideas for the money. That's a really, really different business.
And do you think that it's, for the time being, there are quality projects appearing or developing? At least the mindset is there. If you look around, I mean, entrepreneurship is, let's call it a buzzword for the time being.
Cool.
I hope it's not a hyped buzzword.
Yeah, well.
It's that's my personal opinion, but you never know.
Yeah.
I always like to see something else. But the thing is, how do you think to get this quality deal flow? Because, I mean, you have a certain amount of money which you need to invest, unless you need to get the money back to the investors. So,
well,
do you have an idea, or is that a part
well,
of...
I cannot talk really about the inside of the ICT Fund, but first of all, the ecosystem changed a lot the last 7 years. I think we talked about the ICT Fund. We can also talk about Fit for Start, which is a program where a good idea gets 50,000 euros in order to bring it to a proof of concept, and getting 4 months lean startup training in the process with 2 very, very good coaches. So we have today these kind of incentives and helps to do so. What I think is that we have to, first of all, we have to tell, and we just talked about it some minutes ago, we have to promote already to the Luxembourgish who are studying outside, hey, Luxembourg is cool. You can get support to create a company. You can get support to be a startup. You have a co-working space like Nuco today, and hopefully 5 other Nucos in the next year. So you don't have to rent your 3-year, sign your 3-year contract for rent. You have an idea, you go there, you pay 360 euros VAT included, and then 6 months later you see that's not working. Well, you don't have to pay it anymore. That's the way it has to be done. And I think this whole ecosystem now is there. Not perfect, there's a lot to do, but there's the will to do that. And I think that's the basis. And getting back, all these guys, I have in my company now, I have a PhD. He's a guy who's doing a PhD in virtual currencies. So it's very thrilling. It's totally aligned to our passion. But he happens that he was doing a master in entrepreneurship on a Swedish university and set up a company there with guys. He still runs the company, so he's a very motivated young man. And he runs his company in Sweden. And we were discussing, why are you not coming to Luxembourg? Why should I come to Luxembourg? There's nothing. And that's exactly what is in the heads of people, because there were nothing some years ago. So we have to go out, and everybody of us has this responsibility, and talk to the people and to the young people. Hey guys, look into what's there. Talk to this guy, and then you come home and you do it. That's one thing. So getting our brain drain, rid of our brain drain, and second is really promote it. I think getting 50,000 euros for doing a proof of concept is interesting for anybody. So bringing the ideas here. There is another approach, streamlining research of the university and getting spin-offs out of the university. The ICT Fund really looks into that. We'll see how much that is valuable and possible to do. But these are all ways to create the deal flow.
Creating the deal flow is one thing, but on the other hand, if you look now in other ecosystems around the world, they had also developed themselves through role models. I mean, like people like you, your partner, and yourself, and other who did it, and then who are open and say, okay, I want to give back something, I want to create something. Mm-hmm. That's fine. But also, what is also a little bit different than in Luxembourg is this culture of failure, because here in Luxembourg, it's not bad when you fail, but it's difficult once you have failed to get up again, I mean, from the administrative side. Maybe not in the minds of the people, that's a little bit less, but from the administrative side, I mean, even if you have more or less, okay, you failed and you lost some money, other people also lost some money, but it's difficult to get up again from the, to clean again from the administrative side.
Well, I think we have a culture of non-failure in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
Well, that's not only a Luxembourgish challenge, it's a European challenge in general. Maybe we just take the island of UK and Britain out of that, but for the mainland Europe, as the guy is saying, we have this challenge of not respecting the effort somebody did or the learning curve he could have done through failure, because, well, you know, I always say my best learnings I did when somebody slapped me very hard, because that made me think. When somebody always claps you on the back and says, oh, you're good, well, that really don't help you anything. So I think it's very important. And failure, what is failure?
Yeah.
Let's define failure. The failure today is defined in how much money you made with an exit, or how much money you lost by not doing what you wanted to achieve. Yeah, the next success is around the corner. The next venture is around the corner. Yeah, and the people. I don't know if the mentality changed so much. I like your positivism, but I think there is still a lot to do. And if I see, I can say that because he's saying it everywhere. But I see Nicolas Buc, he earned a lot of money and he lost a lot of money, and he's an entrepreneur, and we respect him. And we need to see these kind of role models which we can relate to, because they're out of our environment, and they did it their way, and they were successful and not successful, and all over they will be seen as somebody successful or not. But again, success is a very vague concept.
Yeah, we understand
Yeah,
what
yeah.
we mean. The other thing is, nowadays, I hear a little bit that it's maybe easier to set yourself up than it was a few years ago, let's say 10 years, 15 years. Has that something to do more of the change of mentality in your opinion, or is it more that eventually there have been more people who tried, and then again this role model and ecosystem building which happened?
I think on the administrative side there's a lot way easier than it was, for sure. There's tremendous lot of things to do. I think we have to take, here in Luxembourg, we have to take ourselves the example of the Estonians and their stateless or stateless state, so their groundless state. And I think that's just brilliant, having a digital state created in the internet. I think it's just a brilliant idea, or brilliant concept. So we still have a long way to go, but it's moving. It's in Luxembourg, so it takes sometimes a little bit longer. And then if it really has to be done, it goes very fast. So we just have to wait when is the very fast coming. On the mentality side, it's another story.
That was a little bit the Marco Houwen who did it and who is now. Where is Marco Houwen, let's say, in 5 or 10 years?
It's a very good question.
Shall we take a question from the floor, and then you have time to think of it?
No, I think today I want to grow my business. I think I have some. So we have some various. My partner Luc Makil, with whom I do BHS-Services. We have some quite innovative ideas on how we think in the future services will be distributed into regulated businesses. So there is a lot to do. So we see this evolving into something very thrilling. Myself, being just not linking myself to a company, but myself, I really like to be immersed into the passion of creation, into the passion of idea, into the passion of supporting. I think it's very it's very rewarding to learn, and I like to learn from anybody whom I have the right to talk to and to understand about his business and about his doing. And as I said before, in entrepreneurship, it's so complex that there is no right or wrong. And maybe the Y Combinator can say what's right, but I'm not at that level. So yeah, well, that was just a hint. But yes, that's where I see myself.
There may be some questions. Yeah.
Hello.
I have a small question. So if I get it right, you're an entrepreneur, but you're a manager as well, right? That's my question. No, that's not my question. How do you manage to work when you have to manage someone who is not involved as you are, as much as you are, and is it easy to work with people like that? Because it's
at the beginning you never understand because you always think the one on the other hand is thinking like you, so he wants it as bad as you want it. It isn't. So yeah, well, you have to adapt, and you have to accept that not everybody is at the same level. I think what is very important is that he has to be good in what he's doing, and he has to achieve what you have hired him for. I think that's the most important thing. I'm not a believer into 20 hours a day, 7 days a week over a long time. I think I saw that firsthand. I told you about my team I've set up in LuxCloud, and I wrote this guy so hard. I really pushed it. I pushed myself. And today I can really say that that's not good. You can do it for time. You can do it for a limited amount of time, but you have to take care about yourself, and you have to take care about your people. It's very important because it's a marathon. It's quintuple 100 marathons one after the other. So you cannot run the sprint all the time. It's not possible.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Another question, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Speaking about people, in the beginning, where did you go and find them? You mentioned that you had friends and people that you knew as business partners, but as your company grew, how did you go about finding those people? Obviously, back then you didn't have as many internet resources as we do. And what would you say for young entrepreneurs trust people or evaluate their skills more than you're going to trust them? Thank you.
I've had two questions. How to find them and how to trust them. Well, there are two concepts here. There are the entrepreneurs who say, I don't trust anybody, I just trust myself, and there are the entrepreneurs who say, I trust, and then I will see. I think after what I said before, you know to whom fraction I am. So I'm more the guy who trusts and then is waiting to be positively acknowledged on my trust. Where to find them? It's always actually let's say it like that. You always have to go a long way. If you need key people in your company, and just talk about key people, you always have to go a long way to get them, either through compensation, through on-top compensation, through stock options, through stocks. You always have to go a long way. Your project has to be thrilling to them. It's one of the challenges of an ongoing business is that these guys will at one moment in time say, well, that's not thrilling anymore. I just saw in one of our companies a long-term guy working with us, very good, very happy. He said, sorry guys, but I'm through it. I have done it all. I need a new challenge. I'm too technical. I'm too pushed. I'd want to see something else now. And that's how it is. It's not easy, but you have to define very clearly what's the target, who you want, and then you have to go for it. We did it with headhunters. We did it without headhunters. I did it through connections. You have to take all potential leads to get where you need to go, and then you fail. You hire the wrong people. Happens every day. It's one of the biggest challenge you're having is that it's crucial. If you one experience. I hired a guy in Singapore for running my Asian business, and I liked him. I think I thought he was good, but he was too much out of the corporate world for me. But still, I said, okay, well, I have him now, so let's go. I don't have time. I need to go on. And he presented to me several months later. He presented to me his potential right hand, and I talked for 10 minutes with the guy, and I thought, I don't need the first one anymore. He's the man I need. I hired him eventually, but you see, you don't have the time, the luxury to especially when you're small, and when you know, my business trips to Singapore were already every 2 months. Going there every month was just not an option. Moving there was not an option because I had offices in San Francisco too. So running both, so you just have to go through it, and you don't have the money to hire the top outmost Asian company who will hire the guy for you. It's just a little bit of luck is in everything.
Yes, please.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for sharing with us
You're
your
welcome.
experience. And I really liked your global vision of various a lot of things. You first started sharing with us your experience from you realized that you couldn't do everything yourself, so you delegate your work somehow. Then with the example of blockchain and Bitcoin and all distributed technology, which I also think is wonderful. Then also, again, this global vision, when particularly in the ecosystem in Luxembourg, realizing that we need to build this ecosystem here. Forget about business, just a little moment. And my question is, how do you see, I'm going to map your vision with my insight and all the technologies that can appear every day. Also, this global context ecosystem, you know, you have distributed services, you have more and more delocated services around the world. How do you see the society in 10 years from now on? From this
In a globe.
Yeah, in a global industry.
I see the changes even didn't start. It will be so incredibly disruptive. We will see, that's my personal belief. We'll see what will really happen. But blockchain will disrupt the way we will do, the way we will act, the way we will actually. For me, blockchain is like the internet reinvented, because the biggest challenge is trust in the internet, and now you have a network who can trust. So any challenge where you need today an SSL certificate, which is hackable by any Iranian or NSA on the fly, is not anymore. So you can create a trust. So you can. The ideas around what we'll create. I will have a presentation in 2 days around use cases of blockchain and whatever. I can go on with that. I will stop. But I think that's one vector of change. So the service industry will be revolutionized. The other thing which I see is the 3D printing, which will bring will disrupt totally how production will be done. And we'll see change in production again here for things which maybe today we put on the ship out of Hong Kong. Because we just want to have it like that, and we can do it here, and it's just possible. I think that's another angle, which is very, very thrilling to see how it will disrupt. And I think today, and that is something which will not happen, but could happen, is that actually we need communities and regions more than we need central government, because we can, with regional electricity creation. We can, with permaculture going into ag tech, which is so agriculture tech. Just look at it; it's thrilling what happens in that area. So you can create regions. You can be autosufficient in areas. So I think that's something which could come, but there are a lot of forces which will make happen that this will take more time than 10 to 15 years. But the potential is there.
Yeah, please.
We spoke about the risk of failure and the way it was viewed in Europe compared to the US. So what's your advice in this respect? I mean, it's certainly a big fear of all the young entrepreneurs. And how to manage this and how to transform the failure into something positive in Europe?
Well, a failure is a very personal thing. And the entrepreneur is the only one who decides at the end what is really a failure, what is. So for me, this is first and foremost a personal challenge. So if you are not living up to your own expectations, and that's very fast for an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur, in essence, has very high expectations on himself. So failure is very fast done. So how to handle that? Yeah, well, take a good go to see a good psychological guy, or how's a psychoanalyst. But no, I think it's just something you have to live with, and you learn to live with it, and you learn to grow out of it. And I think at the end, the most important thing is that you are always asking yourself, what did I learn? What is the learning out of that? What can I do better next time? What can I do different next time? Not only better, because it's not about good or bad very often. It's really, what can I do different? What strategy I will use next time, and see if it works better than the one last time. I think that's very important. So you have to take it as an opportunity. I said before, success is boring in a sense. So, in the best case, it gives you hundreds of millions of dollars and you're very rich. But so what? As a human being, you're not growing. You're not growing through money. You're growing through your experiences and through the way how you are living with these experiences. On the European scale, how can we better handle that? Is, well, to better understand, so that people and most of the people are better understanding that if there are failures, that they have to go through this process, and that there is a process to adapt, and that they are helping and supporting these people to go through that experience by being there and answering and supporting on questions and really being supportive for it. Not, oh, look at that, he really didn't do what he told us. So that's very negative. So.
And did you recommend to anticipate this risk of failure and the behavior to have if it's occurs, or do you think people should be more focused on? The question was that we can read sometimes that people recommend to have a plan B, saying, okay, if something goes wrong, could I maybe use the experience I got with this project to another one? Or your recommendation from your experience is to be more focused on the way you are doing right now and seeing what's happened and then moving to something else?
I think a plan B as such is not a good thing, because a plan B takes your focus from your plan A. But that said, I think it's, but as again, I talk for myself, you know. So, but that said, I think it's very important. I would say accept the worst what can happen, and make sure that it will not happen. So you have somehow to integrate the failure into your thought or into your process as something which can happen, because it will just help you not to break when it happens. Because hey, most of the startups are failing. That's how it is. That's just how it is. So you have to accept that. You have to accept that maybe your idea was not good. Maybe you were too late. Maybe you were too early. Maybe you didn't have the team. Maybe you were ripped off by a partner. Whatever, it happens. So if you are integrating the fact that it can happen, it's easier to cope with. And you go faster to the experience of using it as an experience to be better next time. Better, sorry, not the right term. To be different.
Yes, please.
I've been thinking about ethics in regards to actually opening a new company, and I wondered whether that should play a role when doing a startup. How can a startup actually be ethical? Is it something you have been confronted with?
let's think about development in India or other countries where it's actually pretty cheap. Is that something you should worry about? What's your take on that?
Everybody has to judge that with his own belief structure and decide what he wants to do.
But
That's
isn't that
very
too easy? Isn't that too easy? That's just too easy of an answer.
absolutely. It's absolutely too easy, Sven. But you will not change the way how people are thinking and trying to do. And if there's a possibility for some to go for development to India or create their hardware or whatever they do in Pakistan, well, and they decide to do so, what do you want to do? I'm not there to judge that. I would take my own decision at that moment. I would even not know how I will tell you what decision I would take, because you have to be confronted with that. Yeah, you could say we can produce everything in Luxembourg, but let's face it, do you have any? Yeah, if you are producing a product, do you have any potential of being successful like that? So where is it? Where it starts to be unethical, and where it is ethical? It's very tough, very tough. But absolutely, my answer is wishy-washy, because there is no answer.
Yeah, sure, that's everything I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you for having played the game. And I'm sure that afterward at the networking, which is kindly sponsored by NUCO, you will have all the opportunities to ask the questions maybe you didn't like to ask in open public. And again, thank you, Marco,
Thank you very much.
for your insight and insight.